welcome to the Ghost Hunting TV talk show. And we are live on Ghosts of Britain. Live on Paranormal Magazine. Live on Project Reveal, Networks Viso, and Broadband TV. We're also streaming for Get Scared TV. Let's start this. So, hello and welcome to the Ghost Hunting TV talk show, and we are currently live. My name is Lee Steer. I am the founder of Paranormal Magazine, Ghosts of Britain YouTube, and Project Reveal Paranormal Investigation website. And with me, I have Mark Smith. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mark, and tell the public who you are and what you do?
Hello everyone, my name's Mark Smith. I am a psychic medium and clairvoyant, and I am also a paranormal investigator as well. I don't know if any viewers have seen me, booked me, worked with me. If I have, and if I have seen you before, hello, nice to see you again. And if I haven't, and you're all new and you've never met me before, then hello to you guys as well.
So Mark, how did you get started in the paranormal field?
Well, believe it or not, Lee, I actually started by medium and clairvoyant, and I am also a getting involved with the paranormal through an actual paranormal investigation that I booked with yourself, with Project Reveal, many years ago.
Have you got YouTube up in background?
Say that again, sorry, Lee. Hello to you guys as well.
Have you got YouTube up in background?
May have. Give me one sec. Well, believe it or there we go.
Right, and carry on.
Yes, I actually got invited to a ghost hunt that was run by yourself, probably about 8, 9, 10 years ago now. Believe it or not, that's actually what happened, Jerry. It was at Stocksbridge Bypass. I don't know if you can remember it.
I wasn't there, but I can remember.
I don't think you were there. I don't think you were there, if I remember rightly. But that's what kind of started me off in this field.
Right. So you are a psychic medium. Would you say that is the word what you like to use, or do you prefer clairvoyant or sensitive? What do you like to call yourself?
I basically just call myself a medium. There is obviously a difference between a psychic and a medium. I can basically do both the psychic part of this field of work and the mediumship part, but I do primarily focus on the mediumship part, hence why I just kind of go by the name medium, really.
Nice one. So, what can you do? I know that there's like 5 senses, and I can't remember the senses off the top of my head, but I believe that there's like touch, feel, see, sense, and touch. I don't know. I can't remember. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. As far as me personally, I can't always see spirit. I really wish I could see spirit a lot more often, because it would obviously help in the readings with the clients that I go to see. And I can't always hear spirit either, which again, I wish I could hear spirit a little bit more often, because again, that would help in the readings. What I do primarily focus and work with is actually feelings, kind of like a gut feeling. It's not quite the same as a gut feeling, but that's the nearest thing that I can kind of relate to what I actually use. But yes, you are right, there is many different senses that mediums, clairvoyants, sensitive, psychics, etc., you know, work with and use as different techniques to try to connect with, be it you on a psychic level or you on a spiritual level.
Yep. So, when did you first find out that you had the psychic, the psychic mind, like when you could actually communicate with spirits? When did you find out?
Again, it was actually on this ghost hunt that I went on with Project Reveal, the best part of 9, 10 years ago now. I can recall a medium being there who said that I had a lot of spirit around me. He didn't really say much more than that, but he said that there was a lot of spirit around me that night in Stocksbridge, and I can remember him I can't remember exactly what he said, but there was a lot of spirit around me, and he believed that I either could do this or had some sort of ability. To cut a long story short, not long after I left that investigation with you guys, I found out where my local spiritual church were, went along, and that's kind of how I really got opened up to this, through spiritual church more than anything. But if it wasn't for me coming on like Ghost Hunt with you guys that night, I might not be doing the work that I'm doing today.
Right. So, what can you actually remember about that investigation?
I can remember a lot of people. I can remember a lot of people running around in the dark, scared witless. I can remember the team that I believe you still have to this very day, the same members of the team, handing out all the equipment, being very professional, telling everybody, how the equipment works, what might happen on one of these investigations, how to protect ourselves. I mean, the team itself were very professional with how the actual event was run. But the main thing that I remember was me standing under the pylon. I don't know if any of the viewers know where I'm referring to when I mentioned the pylon at Stocksbridge Bypass. But we were on the bridge, we were under the pylon, and I think we were doing the human pendulum experiment, and I can remember I was being pushed all over the place by what I couldn't, by something that I couldn't see or explain. And this medium, I can't remember who he was, but this medium who you guys had either booked or somebody who was there that night, he came up to me, he put his hands around me, and he said, "You have a lot of spirit around you." That's probably the most significant thing that I can remember, this medium saying this to me. But obviously the ghost hunt itself, the investigation itself, I can remember bits of it. I can remember going into the woods. I can remember somebody saying that they could hear a woman crying, and we went down to investigate in that area, and there was nobody there. But yeah, that's pretty much what I remember.
Right. So, through your time doing your psychic mediumship, where has it took you?
Where has it not took me is the question. I have basically worked with people all over the country, primarily South Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, East Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, on much further afield than that. That's for reading Rotherham, Barnsley, Sheffield, Doncaster and surrounding areas. In terms of where has it actually took me, I've worked with thousands. I deal with anything from one-to-ones, private readings in people's homes, all the way up to group bookings in people's homes. I also do a lot of pubs, clubs, theatres, evenings of mediumship, clairvoyance, demonstrations of mediumship, that sort of things as well. Again, all over South Yorkshire and further afield. I also, again, do the spiritual cleansings, the paranormal investigations, the hauntings, dealing with that sort of thing. And quite recently, I have had the opportunity to work with ITV. I'm not really allowed to say too much about it until it's been given the go-ahead, but I've been working with ITV, with Griff Rhys-Jones on a paranormal show that he's going to be doing later on this year. All sorts of different things. And then this today as well, the live YouTube streams. I've never done this before, so this is something new as well. But, there's not a lot that I haven't done, to be honest with you. I'm still learning, but as it stands, my fingers are in many pies, if that's the right word to use.
Yep. So, would you say that everyone has the ability to actually be a psychic medium?
Well, a lot of people ask me that, a lot of clients ask me that in readings. And what I say to that is, I don't actually consider this, what I do, to be a gift, first of all. I do not consider it to be a gift or a special, or anything like that. I do consider it to be a ability more than anything else. And every single one of us, me, you, the viewers who are watching, and everybody else out there, we all have ability inside of us. Now, it's whether you want to open up that ability or start to develop that ability, that obviously dictates whether you're going to, you know, become a sensitive, become a clairvoyant, become a medium, and that sort of thing. But for me, I call it an ability rather than a gift. And I do, in answer to your question, believe that we all have ability and that every single one of us can do this if we really wanted to.
Yeah, you know my actual views and etc. on psychic mediums, don't you? And
I do, yes.
yes, and you know that I'm pretty skeptical. But I think I would be fair in saying that I'm a skeptic who respects people's views and opinions. Would you say so?
I would totally agree with that. Skeptics, the amount of skeptics that I have seen over the years with me doing the work that I do, who have come up to me afterwards, shook my hands and said, Mark, you know what? I was a total non-believer before seeing you. I'm now a total believer. And that's fine. Those who choose to be skeptical and remain skeptical until they either see something to make them a believer, experience something to make them a believer, be told something perhaps by a medium or a psychic to make them a believer. I actually encourage skepticism. I think it's very healthy to be skeptic. There's nothing wrong with having a skeptic on a ghost hunt, for example, because what a skeptic can do is keep everybody level-headed, keep everybody calm, stop people getting carried away in the heat of the moment and just assuming, you know, that little noise that we just heard in the background there was indeed a ghost. I think it's very healthy to remain skeptical. And even me, myself, as a medium, to a degree, I am still skeptical.
Yep. Well, you've actually worked with me in the past, like you've said, and you know just how hard it is to convince me. What would you say, in your opinion, what would I need to see or feel for to change my view, in your opinion?
I think in answer to that, it really depends on the individual. You know, the easiest thing that I could say to you would be this. If I were to physically capture a ghost or a spirit or whatever you want to call it in a box, for example, and say, "Hey guys, there's a ghost in here. This is proof of the afterlife." How would we even know that what is in that box is indeed a ghost or a spirit? How would we know that? Because nobody actually knows what a spirit or a ghost looks like. You know, different people over the years, over thousands of years, have had experiences that they can't explain. And I think in order for somebody to become a believer in this, they either have to see something they really cannot explain on a rational level to take away the doubts that it's not anything physical that's happening, that it's not anything rational happening. But it really does depend on the individual. You know, I mean, the one person may need to see or hear or feel something very small to convert them into being a believer. Some people may need to see something, you know, really clear, really vividly, really intense. Perhaps have a really strong feeling put onto them by some unknown force to make them become more of a believer. I think in answer to that question, it really just depends on the individual, what their personal thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are in going on the circumstances at the time, obviously.
Yeah, I respect that. And I will actually answer the question myself. What will it take for me to believe? Well, you know that we've been in certain circumstances where it's been pretty strange to say the least. And but for me for to believe, I would need to see, and as well as that, I would need to capture, and I would also need to get some environmental readings. So I'm asking for a lot for to really believe. But would you say that it's possible for a spirit to do all that?
I would, yes. It does depend, kind of like how it depends on the individual in terms of whether they choose to believe or not, or what would make them become a believer. It really depends on spirit as well. Now, what I mean by that is I consider spirit to actually be energy. And the reason I say that, Lee, is because science says that energy cannot be created or be destroyed. It can only change form. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because if that is true, which science says it is, so therefore it must be, if energy cannot be created, then how did we as human beings get here in the first place? Because we must be a form of energy ourselves. You know, we put energy into our bodies every day when we eat and drink. That there in my arm, that's energy making me do that right now. But science says that energy can't be created. So if that is the case, how did we get here? But science also says that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only change form. And again, if that is true, which science says it is, so it must be, what happens to that energy there in my arm? What happens to the energy in me? What happens to the energy in you when we die? Because science says that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only change form. Now, my thoughts on that is, when we die, the energy that's in us right now changes form and changes to spirit form. But because spirit are a form of energy, in order for them to be able to manifest themselves in the ways that you've described, in order for you to become a believer, for them to show themselves, for them to physically come and touch you, for them to physically come and interact with the equipment, for them to physically change the environmental circumstances that we're in, for the equipment to detect that, would take a lot of energy. And spirit, naturally, they don't have a physical body. So the energy levels are not going to be as strong as what ours are, unless we're talking about something demonic or malevolent or a poltergeist, and that's a different thing altogether. The normal
Let's not go
circumstances,
there.
well, you know, but under normal circumstances, a spirit would find it very hard to do anything because they don't have a physical body. You know, I could sit here all night and speak to you, but I think a spirit would struggle to do that because they don't have a physical body to come and sit in to communicate in the same way that we can. And because spirit are a form of energy, energy therefore and does come in different strengths. You know, if you have a really weak energy, I'm going to struggle to connect with that energy in a reading. You know, if spirit are a really weak energy, they may struggle in being able to interact with us at all. If they are a really strong energy, on the other hand, and a really strong energy comes through in a reading, for example, the reading's probably going to be mind-blowing, really intense, really good. In the same sense, on a paranormal investigation, if a really strong, powerful energy was there because that spirit had a lot of energy, you will probably get everything that you have said that you would need to become a believer. You know, actually the spirit manifesting, so you can see the spirit, hearing the spirit, being able to physically see that you've been touched by what you believe to be perhaps the spirit, environmental changes, you know, cold spots, chills, temperature fluctuations, EMF fluctuations, all those sorts of things. I very strongly believe that it really boils down to the energy that spirit have in themselves to be able to deliver what you're looking for.
Right. Let's change subject slightly then. Let's talk about frauds. Why do you think that there is quite a lot of frauds out there, or would you say that there's not a lot of frauds out there?
I would say that there is a lot of frauds out there. There is a lot of charlatans, people who prey on people, you know, people who play on the vulnerable, the grieving. And the reason I think that there is a lot of them out there, because this field of work cannot yet be proved by science as being a real thing that can be done. I think a lot of people out there who, I don't think they would even have a genuine interest in the paranormal or even a genuine interest in being psychic or a medium or spirituality or spiritualism. I think they would just see that as a money-making scam and think, you know what, this is easy money. You know, there's people out there who are grieving. You know, I'd have to be honest. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to mention no names here through client confidentiality. I would have to be honest and say that there is people out there who are in very vulnerable situations, and the work that I do, I'm perfectly aware that there is a massive responsibility that comes with being a psychic, a medium, a clairvoyant. It's whether you choose to respect that responsibility that makes you different from being a fraud, a charlatan, to being a true psychic. You know, I mean, sometimes I might go out to somebody's house to go and see a client. If there's no spirit there, I will tell that client, I'm really sorry, I know you're going to be disappointed to hear this, but there's nothing here for me to connect with. That's me being genuine. You know, I'm sure there's people out there who wouldn't do that, who would know full well that they can't even connect with spirit. Even if spirit were genuinely there, if they can't even connect with it, they will tell that particular client anything, because a lot of people out there are vulnerable in dark places of their lives, in hard places of their life, have perhaps lost somebody, you know, and they're going through grief, and to exploit that and to play on that, I think is something that can be very easily done by anybody. It's whether you choose to be responsible and know where to stop, where to draw the line in terms of me being able to physically connect with who I genuinely believe is around that client spiritually at the time.
Yeah. Like my issue with mediums, and I don't really have an issue as such, as long as things are done correctly. And basically, a medium has a massive responsibility, and they can actually change someone's life
Yes.
big style. Like, and I'm mainly talking about the frauds out there. Like that they can go to meet somebody, they can easily search, find their name on Facebook, look at all the pictures, look where they've been, travelled to, and etc. And then they can convince them that way, and then they will tell them some leading questions like, "Don't go near this person," and yeah, you know, and they can actually say some things what can
Yeah.
actually play in your mind,
Yes.
and you will work towards it subconsciously.
Hmm.
Like, so when you started off and all that, would you say that you cold readed, or wouldn't you say so?
I would say that when I first started to do this work, when I first realized we can connect with using our sixth sense, that again we all have because it's an ability. When I first started to do this, I was actually scared to death. I would go out to see a client. God knows what the client may have thought of me at the time, because I'm sure to God I'd have been sat there like this, a bag of nerves. That client has obviously booked me for a reason. Now, I don't know what that reason is, whether it's because they want to be connected to a particular loved one that they've lost, whether it's because they're after guidance or support or something like that in their life, or whether it's a bit of both, or whether, you know, whether they're just booking me just to see what this is all about and to see who's around them and what spirit I've got to say, you know, or perhaps they're a skeptic and they're just trying this out to make their own mind up on it. In answer to your question, what I would say is I used to be very scared of it. And that's because the amount of pressure that is put on a medium to be able to deliver that client what they are looking for without obviously the medium needing to ask questions or fish for information is very intense. That pressure is very intense. And that's what can make, well, it's even to this day, it still puts a lot of pressure on me to go out to somebody's house, to go and connect them with their loved ones, to give them the guidance they're looking for, without me needing to ask them, who are you looking to hear from today? What are you wanting from the reading? That's asking for questions. That's not being a medium. That is just fishing for information, and that is where is something that I don't do. One thing I've never done is cold read. That is one thing I have never done. You know, to cold read somebody or even to hot read somebody, I would have to say that if you're going to do that and you still considered yourself to be a genuine medium, how can you be? All you're doing is cheating yourself, you're cheating the client, and you're cheating the spirit people as well. And what's the point? You know, what's the point there?
There's no point.
If it's to put a few quid in your pocket, then I think you're in the wrong job. You know, you need to go out there and either earn money legitimately or do something else, not to prey on people, not to take advantage of people who are in difficult places in their life. And that's where, as you said yourself, and as I've said already, that's where the responsibility comes in. And if you can understand that responsibility, and if you respect that responsibility, and you genuinely believe that what is coming through is from spirit, and you also genuinely believe that that message, whatever it is that's coming through, can help that person, then even me as a genuine medium, even if something negative was coming through, bad news perhaps, or something, you know, that I think the client might not want to hear or might not be happy in hearing, even that in itself, I would personally have to make a call in that reading and think to myself, right, I've got I've got spirit here, they're giving what I would personally consider to be something not nice, but I believe in my own mind that everything that spirit give in a reading is something that is needed not necessarily what is wanted. And if spirit have to give because it's needed a little bit of bad news or a little bit of something that I personally think the client might not want to hear, it will be for a positive reason, and that's to help and heal that particular client. And that's basically the reason why I do the work that I do. You know, I'm not really in it for the money. Yeah, this is my job. This is what I do for a living. I've got bills to pay just like you and just like the viewers, you know. But to deliberately to deliberately go out there and just prey on the vulnerable. You know, there's people out there who you could tell them that the sky is green and the grass is blue. You know, they would believe it because they are in such dark places in their life, and it may be grief, it may be, you know, something bad's happened to them in their life. To abuse that, that's where I draw the line. And if I ever knowingly did anything like that myself, knowingly give something that I know is genuinely not from spirit, and giving something to the client just because I think it's what they want to hear, I would, believe it or believe it not, stop doing the work that I do. I really would. But again, it just, you know, again, it just kind of boils down to the responsibility, really.
Yep, fair dues. Yeah, you've also got to bear in mind as well, when public contact mediums, it's normally because of a life-changing event, like where they lose a past one. And it's not just with the mediums, it's also with the paranormal investigation teams as well. It triggers people into thinking, let's go and try to contact my nan, something like that. So would you say that people should be thinking like that or not?
I always say that a medium should be seen through choice, not through being made to feel like you should, not being, you know, persuaded by somebody else who's seen a medium that you should see one. I think a medium should always be seen through personal choice. There is professional people out there, doctors, nurses, grievance counselors, people who can help that client in other ways, but a medium can only help spiritually. And I think, in answer to your question, that anybody who wants to see a medium, feel free to see one. You know, do your research on them, read reviews about them, see if you can find out information about them, how legitimate they appear to be. By all means, do that. You know, but what I would always say is it's really down to the client themselves to choose to do it through their own personal choice, not to be influenced by surroundings, not to be influenced by other people, and even, as strange as this sounds, not even to be influenced by spirit themselves. You know, sometimes spirit may come around a particular person for a reason, and it may be to get a message across. But if that person is feeling that they are, say for example, that person believes that it is spirit that are around them and they're trying to get a message across, but that person doesn't understand what the message is, so let's get a medium in. I think that's probably borderline okay, because a medium can come in and help that client and tell them what, you know, what the spirits are trying to get across, whether it be a message, whether it be guidance or whatever. But to be, I think in answer to your question, the best thing that I could say to you there, and what I always advise to my clients, is do it through choice. It's your own choice, and it's down to you as an individual. I personally would never force or try to persuade a client to see me or a medium. I would always leave it up to the client themselves.
Fair dues. I respect that. Let's change the tone a bit then. So I'm gonna stop questioning you about
No, it's fine. Honestly, it's fine.
but so what's been your most amazing? I don't know the actual word on what I'm trying to say, but where you actually say some things what you just wouldn't have known. You know, what's been the most convincing reading?
I could sit here all night, Lee, and tell you about readings. Now, what I am going to say is, obviously, I'm not going to mention no
Yep,
names.
that's fine.
The you know, through confidentiality. One of the viewers may even be watching and know what perhaps I'm may even about to say. But one of the most vividest, most intense readings that I ever did was with a client called me up this would be going back probably 2-3 years now, maybe even longer. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But a lady called me up and said, I'd like to book you for a reading. And I said, right, no problem. Obviously took her first name, took her the address, and took her contact number, which is all I take anyway, booked her in, and I think I booked her in for something like the following Thursday or something, I can't remember. And within a couple of hours of ending that call, this same client called me up and said, Mark, I've no idea why I'm ringing you. No, I've booked, I know this sounds really strange, but this is what she said. She says, I've no idea why I'm ringing you. I am made to feel like I should either speak to you, but now you've answered the phone, now I am speaking to you, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And I said to her, I says, well, I would have to say it is a little bit unusual that this is happening, but perhaps it is spirit, perhaps it's excitement knowing that I'm coming, and you can't contain that excitement, and you're looking forward to me coming, and maybe it's that, maybe it is spirit that are causing you to contact me again. There's not a lot I can do at this moment in time. You know, I'm coming to see you on Thursday, so I'll see you on Thursday. And the call ended. And again, about half an hour or so later, she called me up again and said, Mark, I'm really, really sorry. I don't want to come across as being a nuisance, but I really do feel like I am supposed to speak to you. But again, now I'm speaking to you. I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you. And it was at that point that I started to pick up on things with that client, purely on her vibration from her voice. And I gave this lady a specific name, which I'm not going to mention because the viewers may be watching, and again, it's down to confidentiality. But this name is a very well-known name that is in the local area. And it was this particular lady's loved one whose name I was getting and who was coming through just over the telephone. Now, you've got to remember, I'd never met this lady before. I knew nothing about this lady apart from her first name, her address, and obviously her telephone number. And this little mini reading, if that's the right word to use, was done over the phone. And I said, I'll leave it there with you and I'll see you on Thursday. And that was the call ended. Well, that night, that very same night, I went to bed and I woke up the following morning, very early. I think it was about 6:15 in the morning, the following morning. And I woke up and I'd actually got tears in my eyes and I was somewhat emotional. And my partner looked at me and said, what the hell's up with you? And I said, I've had a really weird dream, and this particular spirit who I'd mentioned the day before to the client has come to visit me in my dream and told me that I'm going to meet his mum today. Now, I knew at that point that the lady that I'd spoken to the day before wasn't his mum. But he told me in my dream that I was going to meet his mum. Now, I had no idea who his mum was. No idea whatsoever. And it got to about 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. And I decided to ring this lady back, who I was going to see this Thursday, and tell her that I've had a dream that this particular spirit that's already come through has come to visit me in the night and told me that I'm going to meet his mum. But I know you're not his mum. Is there any possibility that I could meet his mum today? Could you perhaps let her know that that you've booked to see me, that he's kind of come through a little bit over the telephone, that he's also visited me in my dream, and perhaps get me to see his mum today, because he's making me feel like I'm supposed to see his mum, but obviously I don't know who she is. So she called me back about 10-15 minutes later and said I've spoke to his mum and she said it's fine to go down. So I went to this lady's house, totally different address to the address that I was going to on Thursday. And when I got there, the spirit of who I had been connecting with for the last sort of 24, 48 hours was there. And he came through in his own mother's home, in his own mother's reading, which, to be fair, she'd not even booked this reading. He was making this happen because he told me that I were going to meet his mum today. And he gave his mum things that I personally thought was fresh or new information to her surrounding his actual passing. But unbeknown to me, she already knew that what he was saying to her was indeed true. But only I can count on one hand how many people would have known this. And it's very difficult to kind of explain this without saying too much through confidentiality. But if I was to say to you that the way that he had been portrayed to have passed away, and the way that had been expressed that he had passed away in the public eye was indeed not quite right. But unbeknown to me, she already knew this because of some court case or something that had happened that literally only a handful of people knew about. And for her son to come through and say, Mum, the way that I died isn't quite right, or the way that it's been perceived that I died, that the public could quite easily go and research me on, isn't quite right. For me to come through and say, the way that your son passed into the spirit world isn't the way that it's publicly known. And to knowingly not know that even she at the time knew that that was the case, but to tell her things that only she knew and literally only a handful of people knew at that time, how would I have known? Not just that, Lee. The rest of the reading, there was a lot of things that came through that again only she would have known. It was actually even said by the spirit himself that he had been watching them, meaning his mum and the lady that I was going to see on the Thursday, either the night before or a couple of nights before. He'd been watching them, watching him on TV. Now, that probably won't make much sense to you or the viewers, but I can't, through confidentiality, express what that means, because obviously it'll end up coming out. But the only way that I would have personally known that he, as a spirit, was watching his mum and his aunt watch him on TV 2-3 days before I even got there, the only way that I would have known that was if I was looking through the living room window and spying on them. But you've got to remember that 2-3 days previously, this lady who I'd booked to see the Thursday had never even spoke to me, had never even booked. So how would I have known that? I wouldn't have. Not just that, there was many things that came through in that reading that there is literally no way on this earth that I could have known. But the weird thing is, at the end of the reading, I was told by the clients that about 18 months previously, the client herself, this spirit's mum, who I'd been drawn to this day, had been to see another medium who at the time, 18 months previously, said, in about 18 months' time, this spirit, I can't mention the name, but this spirit will come to you again with a gentleman called Mark. And about 18 months later, what's happening? I'm in this lady's house with the said spirit. My name's Mark. So the medium 18 months previously had even predicted correctly that this particular spirit were going to come through again with a man called Mark. And guess what? It happened. How can you explain that? Even I can't explain that. But that is what happened. I mean, I could sit here all night and tell you, different things, and whether you choose to believe it or not, whether the viewers choose to believe it or not, that's up to them. But I can honestly say there is many things that have come through in readings that there is absolutely no way on this earth that I would know. I'll give another very quick example. Quite recently, I was in Doncaster. I did a group reading for 6 clients. The last lady that I went to see, the last client that I was seeing, her dad came through from the spirit world and proved without doubt that it was him. And she sat there at the end of the reading and shook my hand and said, Mark, I've needed to hear what's been said for many years. I can't thank you enough for bringing my dad through and telling me what I've needed to have heard. She asked me one question. She says, even though I know it's my dad and believe it's my dad, can you tell me his name? And I said, look, all I can do is tell you what I feel around you at the time, but I will certainly try and get you your dad's name. And I'm sat there, in essence, really pleading with this spirit to give me his name. And I'm sat there waiting for what I presumed would be a name, maybe Mark, maybe Martin, maybe Jim, George, Harry, whatever, a name. And all that came to me at the time, and I will say this because this could apply to anybody, but what actually came to me was the word flick. F-L-I-C-K, flick, just like that, flick. That's what came to me, flick. And I'm sat there saying to this spirit, I need your name, flick's not a name, I need your name, give me a name. And I got the same thing again, flick. And I said to her, look, I don't know if you're going to understand this or not, my love, but I know you've asked for a name, but all I can feel here as I ask for a name is this word, flick. Can you understand that in regards to your dad? And her mouth hit the floor. Her mouth actually hit the floor. And she said, oh my God, That's actually better than getting his name, because his nickname was Flick. And she even proceeded to get her mobile phone out, and she showed me a picture of her dad's headstone, and the headstone itself on her mobile phone even said Flick on it. And for her, that was even better than getting his actual name. Again, how can you explain that? You know, there's things out there that come through in a reading that I genuinely wouldn't have known. But with respect to spirit and with respect to the client themselves, anything that does come through in a reading, to me, it doesn't mean anything anyway, but it wouldn't mean anything to me because it's not my loved ones giving me a message, it's their loved ones giving them one, and it really is for the client to understand. But naturally, you know, things do come through in readings that there is no way you would know. And again, I could sit here all night and tell you many things, but I know we're obviously going to be short of time. So
Yep.
hopefully that kind of answered your questions there and has made a bit of
It definitely answered some questions. Yep. So if you've just tuned in, my name's Lee. You're watching the Ghost Hunting TV talk show, and we are currently live. And you can tweet us at GhostsOBritain or hashtag GHTVS, which stands for Ghost Hunting TV Show. And I am joined with Mark Smith. So, Mark, since you are a medium, do you use spiritual tools? I don't mean spiritual tools, I mean scientific tools.
I do, yes. I have, because I'm not just a medium, Lee. I am a paranormal investigator as well, and that's where the skeptical side comes in. Which I think, going back to what we said earlier, is very healthy to be skeptical. To just presume everything and anything around you that you can't explain as a spirit, I think, is a little bit naive. Because I am a paranormal investigator, yes, I do have many tools. Some of which I have here with me today. Everything from a spirit box to EMF meters to night vision cameras. Oh yes. To night vision cameras, to thermal cameras, you name it, I've pretty much got the equipment or had the equipment at some point, had some experience with it.
Nice. Well, I think the viewers are going to love what we're going to do soon. But you know what I feel about the Frank's box, don't you?
Yes, the spirit box, Frank's box, ghost box, it's the same thing, yes.
Yep. I can't stand them. But for entertainment purposes, I think they're pretty cool. You know, if you're doing a public investigation, I think that they could be useful to keep people a bit interested. But for scientific evidence, I just can't trust it, and especially the Android apps, I can't trust them as well.
Yeah.
Because
I would have to agree with the apps. I definitely don't trust the apps. I have no faith in apps that can be downloaded onto your iPhone, onto your Samsung phone, your Android apps, your app. I don't trust the apps. I'm literally referring to scientific equipment that you can physically touch and hold. Yes.
cool. So would you say that a Frank's box can contact the spirit world?
Without a doubt, most definitely, 110% in my mind, yes.
Oh man. Oh well, yeah. No, we're all entitled to our views and opinions, and you know me, I respect them.
Frank Sumpton himself, the guy who actually created the Spirit Box or became famous because of the Spirit Box, even said himself that he was given instructions by the spirit world, by the spirit people, to build the Frank's Box to allow us to communicate with spirit in real time. You know, again, whether people choose to believe any of this or not, like, as you've said yourself, you know, people are entitled to their own thoughts, beliefs, opinions, and that's fine, and I respect that. But I really do put 110% faith in the spirit boxes without a doubt in my own mind. There's just so many things that have come through when I've been using a spirit box that would just defy logic. Clear, direct, intelligent responses to the questions that you're asking at the time.
It's pretty strange because
I'm here in spirit trying to speak to you. You could still choose, as daft as that sounds, you could still choose to not believe that because you're skeptical. You know, you've got to be open a little bit to at least be, how can I put it? You've got to be kind of open to this a little bit, to perhaps even have the thought in your mind that this could possibly be spirit that we are working with. If you're going to be closed off to it, like I said, I know it's a really extreme example, but if your nan came down today, right now, on screen, live, and the viewers could see your nan behind you in spirit in all her glory, and she was shaking the hell out of you and saying, Lee, look, I'm here, I'm behind you.
Actually,
You could
let's try
still,
that.
you could still choose to disbelieve that, because it kind of goes back to the thing that I said earlier. How do we even know what a ghost is or looks like? How do we actually know that? We
Well,
don't.
that's it. Science
No.
has not actually scientifically proven ghosts exist, but scientists will admit that there is such thing as paranormal activity, but that does not mean ghosts. That just means that there's things what happen within the world which people can't really explain.
Explain. Yes. Science may have said, though, that, science may at this moment in time say that we can't prove if spirits, ghosts, the paranormal exists. But in the very same sentence, science can also not say that spirits, ghosts, the afterlife, the paranormal doesn't exist. This is the reason it's called the unknown. This is the reason it's called the paranormal. How can you try to explain something that we don't understand? This is the whole point in why people go out investigating these haunted locations, these areas where there is believed to be spiritual activity going on, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. They're trying to do a job. They're trying to prove or disprove or find evidence of the afterlife, or even find evidence to disprove the afterlife. That's why mediums also do this, to try to provide some sort of proof or disproof, as the case may be, in the afterlife.
Yep. So, just going back on what you just said, we are going to be doing a live experiment with the Frank's box, and I despise them. But right, if this happens, I will change my mind live. If something comes through on that Frank's box and says, "Lee, I'm your nan," exactly like that,
Mm-hmm.
I will change my mind and I will say I am a 100% believer, because that would really make me believe, because the chances of that happening is zero. Well, actually, I wouldn't say zero. I'd probably say 0.01.
One thing to bear in mind, Lee,
Yep.
is if your nan is not there,
Yep.
or here with me, or wherever, if we're going to use your nan as the tool, let's say, as the spirit to communicate with, if she's not there, then obviously you're not going to get that response.
Well, let's change the question then.
Okay.
If any spirit around who is listening to you and me,
Mm-hmm.
if they can say, "I am here now,"
Mm-hmm.
them, I want to hear them actual words. "I am here now." If they say them 4 words, I will change my view stance live on air.
And if there is no spirits here now, because I'm going to have to presume that the spirits would have to be around this spirit box in order to communicate.
Yeah.
If there are no spirits here, then obviously you're not going to get that response, just so you are obviously aware of that.
Yeah. Well, it's all fun and games. You know what I'm like. I like to have a laugh and a joke. Let's see what happens.
Well, I'll turn this on. Let's have a look. Let me know if you can hear this, first of all, before I start asking questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just turn this on. Let's have a look.
Yep.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Right. What I'm going to ask is something like what you've just said.
Okay.
If there is any spirits here with us right now who can hear my voice, who wish to communicate with us, can you try and communicate through this box right here to let Lee know and to let the viewers know that you are here? Now, I did hear something just then, Lee, what sounded like it said either "that's a lot" or "there's a lot." I don't know if you heard that, or if you could pick that up, or the viewers
I
heard.
heard a sound.
Okay. I'll ask again. If there is any spirits here who can hear my voice, who wish to communicate with us, please try as hard as you can to use this box to let us know that you are there. This is your perfect chance to come through and try and perhaps prove to Lee that this is real. Can you do that?
Yes, that worked.
I don't know. It sounded like something like it's hard work. To me, that's
To
what it sounded.
me, it sounded like I forgot.
Okay. I'll ask another question. If there is any spirits here with us right now, can you tell us how many spirits are here with us? How many spirits are here with us?
If someone can hear my voice on Mark's side of his camera, can you please tell me my name? My name is Lee. Can you please repeat it back?
Just in case spirit couldn't hear you, Lee, I will just ask the question.
That's fine.
If there is any spirits here with us right now who can use the spirit box to communicate with us, can you try and say the guy's name who is hosting this show? Can you try and say his name? Can you try and say Lee?
Lee.
There you go. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, Lee? You can't tell me that you did not hear that.
I heard something
That was crystal clear.
I heard something what sounded like it.
That was crystal clear. Obviously,
Oh my god.
Obviously, you've got to try and remember. I'm just going to turn this down just so
Yeah.
the viewers can hear me. You've got to try and remember that the sound quality is obviously going to be deteriorated a little bit because it's having to come through the air, through my microphone, all the way through the computer, through the internet, and to come out to your speakers. But that was crystal clear.
Mark, right? You cannot see me. Verify that, yeah?
I cannot see you.
Right, I'm holding some fingers up, and the viewers can see it.
Okay.
But I know for a fact that you can't because you are on your own on Skype.
I cannot see anything. Just so the viewers are aware, I cannot see Lee at all. All I can see is a little box on my screen that says Ghost of Britain.
So
I cannot see Lee.
I want the spirit to look at your... Oh, it can't look at your screen. So that's just flawed.
We could ask the spirits if they could perhaps travel from, if they are here with me, for example, to you, to see how many fingers you're holding up and then come back to speak. We could ask that to happen.
Try it, yeah, because I'm holding up some fingers and I'd like to know if the Frank's box can say how many fingers I'm holding up.
Okay.
Or the spirit.
Okay. If there are any spirits here with us right now, if you could go and visit Lee, that's the guy on the other end of this connection, and see how many fingers he is holding up, and then come back here and tell us through the spirit box. Is that something you can do? Can you tell us how many fingers Lee is holding up, please, spirit? Just give them a little bit of time, just in case they do have to travel, for example.
Fair dues.
I know it's a big ask, Spirit, to do this. You may not even know who Lee is. You may not know where he lives. You may not have no idea where in the world he is. So it is a big ask. But if you can, go to Lee right now, count how many fingers he's holding up, and come back here and speak through this box and tell us the answer. That would be great if you can do that.
Right, let's change the question. Ask it to say my second name.
Okay. Can any spirits, doesn't matter who, any spirits at all, if you are here with us, if you can understand my voice, speak through the spirit box and say Lee's second name, his surname. You've already gave his first name.
And it's Steer, so I want him to say it.
Can you say his name, his surname? If you can do that, if you can do it as clearly as what you said, his first name, that'll be pretty impressive. So come on, spirit, try and say Lee's surname. can tell you what it is if you don't know, and it is steer. Can you say steer?
Right, Mark, we're going to have to call it a night. So
Okay.
it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You should come back on in the future.
Great stuff. I can't wait to hear this back and watch this, because when that said Lee,
it
that
was
was
good.
crystal
I
clear.
must admit that was good, but I am still skeptic. But it was good. I must admit.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you tonight, Lee.
No problem.
It's been lovely seeing all the viewers.
Yeah.
You know, old friends that may be out there that have seen me before, thank you for coming and viewing. Any new friends that are out there, thank you for coming and viewing. All I can really say is thank you for having me. I hope you've enjoyed the show.
Yep.
Good night and God bless from me.
And how can people find you?
They're more than welcome to go on my website, which is www.marksmithpsychicmedium.co.uk, or they can find me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Mark Smith Psychic Medium. All the links to my Facebook pages, my Twitter pages, my Google Plus pages, etc., social media websites can all be found on my website. So don't worry too much about trying to remember what I've just said. Just go on the website, marksmithpsychicmedium.co.uk, and everything you need to know about me will be on there.
And we will put the links in the description of this video for the viewers watching. Just stay on the line, Mark. So yet again, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. It's been an amazing show, and I am back live again tomorrow with Femforce. You will see her on your screens now. I will hope to see you at, I believe it's 10 o'clock UK time. I'm not quite sure of the American time, but I'm sure that you will work it out. Good night, everybody.